Welcome to Cochise Red Hot, where the chips are crunchy, the salsa's spicy, and we find out if you can dip into the heat.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good at handling spicy food. It's pretty spicy. I'm nervous for these two now. That's spicier than I expected. Nothing.
Today, I'm joined by Mr. Brian Hammerkhausen. He's instructor of student success here at Cochise College.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So, I have a suspicion that you can handle spicy food. Is that true or false?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good at handling spicy food. If I'm at a restaurant and I've got a bunch of salsas in front of me, I'm usually going to go for the one that looks the spiciest. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, you've come to the right place
Yeah.
then. Yeah, we've got some of those for you. What's the spiciest thing you've ever eaten, and how did you handle that?
Oh man, like I said, I usually go for the hot stuff. I had some wings in Mexico one time, and they ripped me apart. You know, like the
glisten, the
whole,
sweat,
like
the
my whole
sinuses.
face was burning.
Nice.
And you know how they have the little charts that say how hot this is? This was only halfway up the scale, and it just burned my entire face. And so I do not want to know what it would have been like to go up to the top of their scale. So we'll see how I handle this here.
Yeah, you'll have to tell us at the end where that ranks with your hot wings. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and dip into our first one, which is mild.
Okay.
That's going to be this one for me and that one for you.
Okay, sounds good.
And grab a chip.
Okay.
That one always has a good flavor.
Not bad. Yeah, that's a good flavor. It tastes like sort of a standard restaurant salsa.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So, obviously I know a little bit about you since you were an instructor of mine last year, but for anybody who may not know you, can we start with maybe just getting to know you a little bit? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I've got, I think, like the best job at Cochise College. I get to teach what's called Connections for Success. It's the first year seminar class here at Cochise College. So basically it's a class that new students get to take when they first get started here, and we teach them about how to be successful students. And it's really great because I get to see them as they're first getting started and learning how to be successful students, and then as they continue moving forward, I get to see them around campus and then ultimately get to see them graduate. So it's really great. My initial job here at Cochise College, I worked in the academic advising office, and before that, at a couple of other schools, I was in charge of residence halls in student housing. So I've worked in higher education for like 20 years, and I think I found sort of the sweet spot for me. This is a great job and a great opportunity to help support students as they're pursuing their academic goals here at the college.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I imagine too that class sort of combines instructing with advising to a degree, not so much maybe about what classes to take, but...
Yeah, for sure. I've always called it like maybe 60% class and 40% case management, because I get to know the students very well, and I'm not the advisor, but I'll connect them to the advisors or to the tutors or to the other resources that we have here, and give them advice and tips for how they can be successful.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, in your opinion and from your experience, what does student success mean to you?
Oh man, student success means a lot of different things to every student. Some students want to come here and get prepared to transfer to a university, and so if we can successfully hand them off to the university, that's success, right? Some students are here just to become an EMT or to become a CNA, and they're here for maybe 1 semester or 2 semesters. And if we can help them achieve that goal, then that's success.
Yeah.
So it really sort of depends on what the student is after. I feel like the student should be able to define their own success. And in our class and here at the college, I feel like our goal is to help support them as they pursue whatever that goal is for themselves.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting to think about too, because as opposed to like a traditional course, you know, you kind of come in, this is the curriculum, this is the outcome, but for your class, it's a little bit more flexible in a way the student sort of designs more or less what that's going to look like for them.
Yeah, we do a lot of projects in our class that are based on their experience, their goals, and so we try to tailor it around their specific needs and the things that they want to accomplish at Cochise College. I've got so many students who want to go into nursing or engineering or teaching or business, and to help them sort of feel empowered to begin moving forward, we try to make the class about them, and while still giving them some practical tips that are useful for everyone.
All of them, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And how does that, how you view success shape what you do every day?
I would say that it shapes what I do every day because that's my entire job here at the college. And if helping a student, maybe there's a student that got a weird email from financial aid and they don't really know how to interpret it. If success for that day for that student means walking them down to financial aid, and just because maybe they're nervous to do that on their own or whatever, I'll go with them to financial aid. Or if it's, let's go talk to someone in the STEM lab or in the writing lab, just because they're not really sure where those places are located or how to connect with them, how I can help a student achieve success for that particular day is what I'm going to do. And so it's really great to see students leave maybe the financial aid office or the writing lab with a sense of relief that, okay, I have this question answered, and now I sort of know how to continue moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful too, because there definitely is, even for myself, when I first started here, I don't know that I would have taken advantage of the writing lab had one of my instructors not brought us here and showed us this resource.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for that fear. It's just like, but for some reason we have it, right? So having just that bridge be taken, or that wall be taken down, and an instructor be like, this is here for you to use, helped me move. Now I use them all the time for everything, So,
for sure.
So it's definitely important.
I think students just don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And so our job in CPD 150, and I think at the college in general, is to help students learn about some of the resources that exist here and learn about the opportunities that we have. And if that means showing them where the lab is or learning about the different clubs and other opportunities where they can get connected, then I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
And with your experience and everything, if there's something, if you could go back in time to when you were a college student, is there anything you've taught in your class that you wish you could take and go back in time and apply that then?
Oh man, yeah, for sure. I think it's probably time management and procrastination. What I see in my students now is a big challenge in managing priorities and being able to handle all of the many tasks that they're dealing with at one specific time, different assignments or work or taking care of family, things like that. I wasn't very good at that when I was in college, and I was a horrible procrastinator. I would always wait for the very last minute to do my homework, and it never ended up well for me. And I feel like if I could go back in time to when I was a student and learn some of the new skills that I know now about time management and avoiding procrastination, I feel like I would be much better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as a student, I think I'm still struggling a little bit with that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and the truth is, as a professional, I feel like I struggle with it too. If there's a task that I don't really want to do, it's so much easier to do something that's easy and fun than like a sort of difficult and maybe a monotonous task. Of course, I'd rather do something easy and fun, and so it's easy to put some of those things off.
But that's where cultivating that skill in a class such as yours is going to become key, really. You kind of have to, in a way, fight yourself almost, like, yes, I know this is fun and I want to do this, but I have the skills and these mechanisms and I know that this is important, so I'm going to use what I've learned and get this important thing done.
Yeah,
and
Yeah, a lot of times it's about thinking about the end and what's going to be the outcome if I do this.
Right.
Well, maybe that outcome doesn't come for a couple of years until I'm walking across the stage at commencement.
Right.
But thinking about the end and what's better for me now, to do this easy and fun thing right now, or work a little bit harder now and then get the payoff
later
in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And now if you could go back in time and be a student again, what would you not do?
The truth is, for me, this is just for me, if I could go back, I would not take a 7:45 a.m. class again.
Okay,
I think
Pretty early.
it just didn't work for me. And I know there are some students that it works just fine for, but my sleep cycle when I was in college didn't really set me up for success in a 7:45 class.
Hey,
And I think you just sort of have to know yourself. I would always, after I took those 2 classes, I tried to do, it must have been like 9:15 or 10:45 classes or something like
definitely.
that.
Yeah, set yourself up for success
sure.
too. If you are not a morning person, definitely. So I'm the opposite. I am a morning person, so like a class, like a 5 p.m. class is gonna be pushing it for me.
Oh, see, 5 p.m. would almost be perfect for me.
Yeah, it's pushing it.
Yeah.
My brain function at that point is pretty bare minimum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, spice-wise, you're doing okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
Then we will move on to the second one then.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
I'm nervous for these 2 now. That's spicier than I expected.
I thought if I should warn you, but then I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go for it.
Had you tried these before, Maddie? Oh man, yeah. The warning would have been nice.
I'm sorry.
I'm not mad at you, but
maybe disappointed. This is the one that got Dr. Wants as well.
really?
Yeah.
We're only on number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous.
I believe in us. I will say, if it means anything, in my professional opinion, now that this is my 3rd time doing this, somehow that one's the worst. I don't know what it is.
I'll believe you.
Okay.
I believe you.
We'll see at the end. All right. So we talked a little bit about it, but can you tell us a little bit more about your class, about CPD 150?
Yeah. So in CPD 150, we really have 3 main goals. The first goal in CPD 150 is to make those connections, right? And maybe that's with some of the resources that we have here, and also connections with each other. What I find at Cochise College a lot is that sometimes students will come to campus. Holy cow.
I know. It just stays there.
Yeah, holy cow.
I'm really trying to keep it together. Don't touch your face.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. Yikes. Just to make those connections with each other. There are a lot of students that just come to campus, and even between class, they'll go to the parking lot and sit in their car. And I think there's so much value in like being a part of the community, getting to know your classmates, getting to know friends on campus. So the first thing we talk about is connections, and also sort of like connecting our brain with the success that we want to achieve. And so I think there's some value there in like, there's going to be obstacles, there are going to be challenges. And so how do we work through those challenges in a way that sets us up for success,
Right.
instead of just throwing in the towel?
Right.
The next thing we do is a lot of planning. So students will work on a project where they do some academic planning, learn more about their future career, what kinds of steps they're going to need to take in order to achieve those goals. Then we also do some development of study skills, strategies that can maybe help them be more efficient as learners. So those are sort of the main things. We all do that in the context of of this engagement community where we want people to be connected. We want people to feel like they're part of the Cochise College community. There's a sense of belonging there.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the main thing that we cover in our class, the connection, the planning, the development, all in the context of engagement.
Yeah. And I think that's big too. I was having a similar conversation earlier this morning with an instructor about sometimes it's hard to know how to be prepared, especially if you don't even really know what that first step looks like.
Right.
So being able to sit down and say, okay, this is my goal.
Yeah.
And doing some, online research, whatever, okay, this is what I need to do. And then from that, all that information, making a plan to accomplish those things can be, having that skill is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And for pretty much every CPD 150 student, this is their first semester. They're taking some academic classes and then CPD 150, which is sort of like the academic class with this, a lot of the support. And so our class is the venue for them to learn about the campus, to learn about the resources, to learn about the sort of taking those first steps so that they can achieve the things they want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, if you could have students take away one thing, only one thing from CPD 150, what would that thing be?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably if students could walk away with CPD 150 or with one thing from CPD 150, it'd probably be that they can achieve success here. There are a lot of students that get started and maybe the first 6 weeks of the semester things sort of start to go a little bit haywire. Maybe they get a not so good grade on their first math test, or maybe they get a little bit of a wake-up call in their English class, or they're struggling to manage their time. And a lot of students, I feel, can sort of feel that uncertainty, and a lot of them are just like, oh, this isn't for me.
Right.
I don't know if I can achieve success here. But the truth is, they can achieve success, and we talk in class about some of the strategies that can help them overcome those obstacles. And so my hope is that people leave CPD 150 feeling like, even though there are obstacles that are going to come their way, and there will be obstacles that will come their way, that they can overcome those obstacles and achieve whatever success looks like for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. Even for myself, we talked about this in our previous class, but when I first started at a community college, it wasn't Cochise, I wasn't very successful. And one of the things was that I just, it was kind of a wake-up call, just the type of work that was going to need to get done, the how much work was going to be need to get done, because at the time I think I was a full-time student, was really overwhelming. And for me, it was immediately like I was scared, so I just kind of threw in the towel. And I had that mindset too of, I don't know, maybe this isn't for me, blah blah blah. But I even took a student success course, and it was some of those like foundational skills of how do you overcome obstacles, or even if you're faced with an obstacle, if you're stuck, who do you go to? That helped me even.
For sure.
So definitely, I agree.
Yeah, that's great.
So speaking of that, do you feel like there's sometimes sort of a stigma or like a negative attitude around like student success classes, and maybe students sort of are afraid to take them?
I think sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma. I think every once in a while we'll get some students that come in and they're like, why am I in this class? I don't need to take this class. This class is maybe even like a little bit below me. Like I know how to be successful. And I think it's interesting because at the end of the semester we have those students, every student that takes CPD 150 take a survey. So many times students' feedback is, when the advisors first told me that I needed to take CPD 150, or when they signed me up for CPD 150, I was like, what is this? I don't need this. But so many times they say, I'm glad that I took it. I learned some new things. I made some new connections. I was able to clarify some questions that I had about my degree plan. And almost to a person, people walk out of CPD 150 feeling like they benefited in some way from our class. And so there might be that stigma at the beginning, but I think we do a good job early on to tell the students, hey, this class is for you. This is about you. This is for your success. And
you can kind of make of it what you need.
Yeah, and a lot of students do make the decision to say, okay, yes, I'll see what I can learn here, and they do, and they benefit from it for sure.
And that kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, that you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And you'll be surprised how often, you learn something new. And even if you have the skills already, maybe you're coming from being in the workforce, so you already have some skills that'll probably set you up for success in a classroom setting, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So
for sure,
a class like that could be really eye-opening.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people that come back, non-traditional students. Maybe they've worked for a while or done something, so maybe they know how to manage their time and get their tasks done. But college has changed a lot in the last several years, and so submitting an assignment in Moodle or learning how to do some of those technology related things, that's a challenge. And so that's something that we sort of try to help in our class, to expose them to some new technologies that can help them be successful in their other classes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, that's huge.
Yeah.
So, and actually to that, the Writing Lab tutors have this quote, and I wanted to say this earlier, but I was trying to wait till now. And I'm totally stealing their quote, but full credit to the Writing Lab for this quote. They say, and I'm probably butchering it, but the most successful student is not the smartest student. It's not necessarily the most talented student. The most successful student is the one who takes advantage of their resources, knows what resources they have and how to use them, and set themselves. And I think this class is one of those resources. Yeah,
for sure. And I would add to that has the self-discipline to continue moving forward even when things get tough.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I do need to utilize that resource, or I've got this paper due. I don't really like this paper. The topic that I picked isn't exciting to me, but I'm just gonna keep plodding forward and get there. That discipline, I think, is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're still alive.
Barely,
how are you feeling?
When you said that this was the worst one for you, that made me
a little more
slightly better.
Okay, good.
I'm still pretty nervous.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we should dip into the third. How do you feel?
Let's go for it.
All right. And I promise you, I'm not leading you astray. In my opinion, that one is the worst.
Nothing.
This one's a sneaky one.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, it's not as...
I feel like we should switch these two.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I feel like you can even switch this one and this one.
Really?
Yeah, I like this one. I like this one.
I think this one was like 7,000 or 700,000 on the whatever the heat scale
Scoville
is.
units or whatever. Yeah.
I think this one's supposed to be like 850 or 900, and then this one's 1,000,000. But in my opinion, this one's worse somehow. I don't know if it has to do with
Okay,
like...
now I'm scared again. I was feeling okay, but now I'm scared again. Okay.
Well, I have full confidence in you. I really do.
Okay.
If I can do this, you can do this.
Okay, yeah.
So something I found interesting that I'd love to know your thoughts on, speaking of kind of engagement. So Inside Higher Ed, the magazine, talks about a correlation between student success and student engagement.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, and what's something that here at the college, Cochise College students have access to be engaged and then be successful?
Oh man, I think it's huge. I think it's so important for students to have a sense of belonging at their institution, and I think Cochise College does a pretty decent job of providing opportunities for students to make those connections, whether it's like the academic resources or also the sort of student life type stuff, the clubs and the activities and things like that. And yeah, the research has shown that makes a huge difference in the overall success of a student, and that they're more likely to stick around, they're more likely to graduate, they're more likely to achieve whatever they came to achieve. And so in our class, we actually require students to go outside of the classroom and connect with resource on campus or go to an activity on campus. And I think it's great that, like one of my classes is at 12:15 p.m. And that's like right at the heart of when, if they're doing an activity, they're giving out free food. And so my students come in with cupcakes or ice cream or tacos or whatever. And I think it's great for students to have that sense of, okay, I belong at Cochise College. I'm a member of this community here. And especially if they make some connections with some classmates that are gonna spur them on to success here, that are gonna help them maintain that discipline like we just talked about. When the motivation starts to dip, if you've got a friend or even an instructor that says, hey, I see you're slipping, let's pick it up again. I think that can go a long way to help a student ultimately complete here and move on to wherever they're headed next.
Yeah, absolutely. And something too that, speaking of engagement, that at least I think has been really beneficial for me is just remembering that your instructors are there for you. And we're lucky that we have small class sizes, whereas opposed to, in bigger universities, maybe it's a little harder to have that one-on-one with your instructor. But here we can do that. And that's a resource for you too. And that's a form of engagement. Most of the things I've done at Cochise has been because an instructor encouraged me to do it. So that's a big one too.
It's true. And I've worked at large state university, and I've worked at community colleges like Cochise College, and I don't think I would ever go back to a big university because of that connection. Classes are smaller. Maybe we don't have the breadth of opportunities like at a big university, but the opportunities that we do have here I feel like they're deeper and more meaningful at the community college.
Yeah, I would agree, definitely. So, and then sort of going off of that, obviously one day we're going to leave college and enter the real world, right? So what sort of skills will students learn in your class that kind of carry over either maybe to a 4-year or maybe to work or whatever?
So I'd like to think that a lot of the things that we talk about are not only useful for college, but they're useful for everyday life and also for the workplace. The time management, that's useful anywhere. The goal setting, that's useful anywhere. And I think some of the communication skills and the self-advocacy that we sort of talk about, I feel like that's useful anywhere. And I hope that those are skills that students will be able to make that connection, say, oh, this is useful for me here within the context of being a student at Cochise College, but I can pull from that when I get my first job or when I have an issue come up at work where I need to talk to somebody or something. So we try to think about that a lot. The other thing that we talk about that's very practical is some professional communication, resume building, and interview skills and things like that hopefully students will be able to utilize as they leave Cochise College as well.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I think that's really important, in a way, to take a class like that. Yes, it's student success, but it's also just tips for success, just in general. If you want to make a goal to go to Disneyland one day or whatever the case may be, it gives you the skills to set out what you need to do that,
right? Or
whatever the case may be.
So every week in our class, on the first day that the class meets, I have students set up a goal for that week. And so maybe it's, this week I want to pass my math test, or this week I want to get my rough draft done for my paper, or this week I want to clean my backyard, or like whatever it is. And then we'll have them say, these are the specific steps that I need to take in order to achieve that goal. And I think obviously there's a lot of crossover into all areas of life.
Right.
By just sort of having that mental list of what do I need to do, how can I accomplish it, and when do I want to have that goal completed, that goes a long ways to help students be successful in and outside of the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's huge. Well, how are you feeling spice-wise?
I'm good.
You're rocking with it?
Yeah, I'm good.
Should we move on to number 4?
Let's try it.
Okay. Yeah, number 4.
Yeah, number 4.
All right.
Is it getting you?
Oh yeah.
I'm fine. I feel like these are like wildly out of order.
No, I must have got a really good seat or something.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, you have to suffer with me.
Okay.
Holy moly. No?
I got very little. Yeah, I'm not touching this stuff
Yeah,
again.
don't touch
Number
that.
2, I'm not touching again. The other 3, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, that one's kicking my butt right now. Not gonna
Wow.
lie. Okay, I'm gonna power through though. So, we talked a little bit then about like technology changing and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So, with that, like with AI and various apps, how do you think student success classes will change?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm not sure if higher education institutions are like prepared for some of those big questions, right? If I had to guess, this is just me speaking. I don't really. I feel like in the future, pretty much everyone's jobs are going to require artificial intelligence in some way.
Right.
And I feel like there's an appropriate and a smart and an ethical way to use artificial intelligence. And then there's a way that is maybe dishonest and inappropriate and just not the smartest way to use artificial intelligence. I'm speaking mostly about like ChatGPT and
Right.
things like that. And so I feel like in the future, that conversation is going to have to come up. We talk about it now in our class related to like policies. Check your instructor syllabus, see what their rules are about the use of ChatGPT and things like that. But I feel like in the future, it's going to need to go one step further, which is everyone's going to need to use this. And so let's figure out the smartest and best way to use this without overstepping any ethical bounds or go into sort of the realm of academic dishonesty and things
Right.
like that. So we haven't started having that conversation yet, but I'm sure that within the next several semesters, it's going to become a bigger and bigger part of our class, especially as those language models get better and better
Right.
and harder to detect and things like
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah, definitely. Even thinking my first semester here, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember there being a disclaimer about AI, but now there is, because it's growing and it's, becoming more efficient, faster.
Yeah,
know?
I think in fall 2023 maybe was the first semester that every teacher
Had to
in their
have-
syllabus had to have a statement about the use of artificial intelligence.
I know my first semester was spring 2022, so maybe it wasn't in it, or maybe I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But it does. Tech is speeding up.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
for
And
sure.
So, and it's like you said, there's definitely pros to it, but there's some cons to it
Yeah.
too. The academic dishonesty is obviously for our purpose going to
Right.
be a pretty big deal. But yeah, so it's definitely interesting to think about how those are going to get integrated,
Yeah.
and how does that change student success? What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting for a while to see how colleges and universities adapt and how I think students probably at this point in the ballgame are ahead of some institutions just because they've sort of learned how to use it. I don't think they're using it in the smartest way, but it's definitely out there.
Yeah, they have access to it for sure.
It's
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, definitely. I just learned that not long ago. I guess there's an app where you can like take a picture of a math problem and it just solves it for you.
Yep, I've seen that app,
Yeah.
and I've seen students use that app in an appropriate way, where it's like, oh, I've gotten this far. Let me scan this problem and see what the next step might be.
Yeah.
Versus the wrong way, which is
I'm just
gonna
gonna
scan
do
it
it.
and copy down what I have,
Yeah.
or like plug in the answer in the computer.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that that stuff is supposed to be a tool to help you, not necessarily to do it for you.
Yeah.
Because it can be one, I mean, even if you think about like the math courses, they're on like an online program anyway, so there's already some kind of tools to show you, if you've tried a problem so many times and you keep getting it incorrect, that will show you how to do it, and then they'll give you a similar one to try next, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think it's kind of goes into something like that.
Yeah, I hope students don't forget that we have access to tutor.com where you can chat with a live person and they can sort of walk you through that. So in a way that you can understand instead of just like see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Actually, I did better in math than I thought I'd do. So, and I didn't use any apps.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, I think it's interesting to think about what that's going to look like in a few years. So, and then we've talked about obviously student success, but what other classes do you teach?
So the only other class that I teach at Cochise College is called Honors 223. It's called Leadership Development Studies. And in that class, I co-teach it with Mr. Jeremy Wagner. He's an administration of justice teacher. In that class, we talk all about leadership and sort of developing leadership skills. And we do a couple of service projects in that class where students can take what we talk about and sort of apply them in real life situations where they're learning how to communicate and learning how to step up, learning how to take care of different tasks and lead that project. So it's a really fun class to teach, and I really enjoy interacting with the students that are moving forward and preparing to be leaders.
Yeah.
And already are leaders, and just sort of helping them develop those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Spoiler, I obviously took that class.
Right,
That's how I know you. But so little shameless plug, take the class. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, fun question time.
Okay.
If money weren't an issue, time weren't an issue, there's nothing standing in your way, what dream class would you want to teach?
So if I could teach a class at Cochise College, I feel like there's a possibility that this could happen. I feel like teaching a class on adulting would be beneficial for some of our students. In our class, we talk a little bit about like financial awareness and financial literacy, mostly in the context of financial aid and scholarships. But I think there are a lot of students that don't really understand the idea of buying a car, buying a house, or things like that. And I feel like students are hungry for it, and I don't know if they've ever, in some cases, learned any of that stuff. And I feel like there might be some value there. And then other just sort of adulting stuff, I remember one time I was driving down to the Douglas campus, and there were a few students that were on the side of the road. They had a flat tire.
Oh.
And I had class in maybe like 35 minutes or so. And it was me and another teacher that were carpooling down. And we were like, do we have time to help them out? And we were like, yeah, I think we can help them out. So we pulled over and we were like, what do you need help with? And they're like, we have no idea how to change this tire.
Oh.
And so Dr. Kat and I stood behind them. We were like, do this. Okay, now twist this thing, and now take this off, and then do this. And there on the side of the road, we taught them how to change a tire, which is a skill that they're going to have forever.
Yeah.
And that's something that not a lot of people know how to do necessarily.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if we could just do some basic, like if you're a grown-up and you want to be able to sort of survive and
navigate comfortably.
Right. That would be a really beneficial class for students to take. I feel like there are some universities that do have an adulting class. I feel like I've heard of it.
Maybe, yeah.
And I think it would be so much fun to teach, and it would be so beneficial for students.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a part. There's a component to that in CPD 150, right? And some of the stuff that we teach is very, very practical. But I feel like there's some non-academic things that students could benefit from as well.
I've always wanted, I wish there was like a tax math class. So you understand how the taxes work when you're filing your taxes, because you can always talk to whoever helps you do your taxes or whatever, but they talk to you like a tax person.
Right, yeah.
And if you don't know what those words mean
For
because
sure.
you don't work with taxes, then it kind of is just,
Yeah.
Or insurance. That's another one where it's like, what's a deductible? What am I deducting from?
Yeah, those are vocabulary words that I think I probably didn't know that word when I was 18.
Yeah.
And so,
But
I feel
obviously
like
those are important things.
they're very important things, yeah.
So knowing what they mean and how to navigate it and how to know what you're signing up for, whatever the case may be, would be super helpful
for sure.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thankfully, I know how to change a tire.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. So if I see you on the side of the road, I'm just gonna keep going. No, just
dismiss. Yeah, ignore. That's so funny. And then to that, another fun class that I haven't stopped thinking about. So I filmed Coachy Speaks as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I interviewed a student, and she had talked about a conspiracy theory class.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's a great idea. And I would sign up for that class. And another student at the Douglas campus had mentioned a paranormal investigation class.
Okay.
I would sign up for that class.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I feel like the conspiracy theory class would be really good because it's teaching you research skills, it's teaching you critical thinking skills, it's teaching you sort of some creativity. There's a lot of stuff that you could.
There's like a history element
Yeah,
to it,
for
so
sure.
you can get into, some
Right.
like aliens or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
and it's just interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be fun. So maybe you can teach that one.
I'll look into that.
If you don't do your adulting one, you can do conspiracy theory.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
That'd be fun. So, and my last question for you then, and maybe you've already answered this, but if you could swap jobs with anybody at the college for one day, who would it be and why?
Oh yeah.
Just one day.
So I feel like this might be. This is sort of a deep cut answer, but I would switch jobs with Denise Mazonek. Do you know who she is?
I do not know who she is.
So Denise works in the Human Resources Department, and one of her jobs is to interview all of the potential employees at the college. So she heads up a lot of the hiring committees and things like that. I feel like it would just be so fascinating to meet all of these candidates for people that want to work at Cochise College and see some of the crazy things that happen during interviews and be able to select sort of the future of the college by pushing the best candidate forward for a different job that we have here. I feel like that'd be a really fascinating job.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And also thinking about what does the other side of the hiring process look like, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I always like being on hiring committees to be able to see it from that angle and to sort of break down candidates' answers and sort of how they would maybe mesh at Cochise College and things like that. So I would go with Denise.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. All right. Well, we're still alive.
Oh yeah.
You've made it through.
Yeah.
That one got me a little bit, but this one I still think was the worst.
Yeah, if I were to rank these over, I would probably go maybe even like this. 3, 1, 4, 2. 2 was brutal.
Yeah, I put 2 at the last 2. I think this one, number 1, is good for me. This one had a little bit of a kick.
Yeah.
That one got me for a little bit, but this one stays spicy forever. It's just hot for a long time.
Yeah, and when I eat something really spicy, I get hiccups. I don't know if you noticed, I had hiccups there for a minute.
No.
So
You pulled it off.
Yeah, I did okay. But yeah, it was good. I survived.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for soldiering through the salsa challenge. Oh, we have to know, how does it compare to your hot wing?
Number 2 was way spicier. All of the others were more manageable than those hot wings down in Mexico. This one knocked everything out of the water.
Okay,
for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Love that. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up with our monthly episodes, and we will see you next time.